Hello all you seafaring cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic and welcome to my Abandoned Ship preview. So today we're going to be taking a look at Abandoned Ship, which is essentially a game that is not unlike something like FTL, but this time instead of starships you are in fact a naval Age of Sail style ships. You know, this is Master and Commander stuff. This is straightforward, you know, Admiral Nelson versus Napoleon Bonaparte on the seas kind of thing, except it's more in a fantasy setting, and you also have I would say almost Cthulhu-esque elements about the world, very much Lovecraftian elements about the world, and we'll go on to the art style in a little bit, but this game is not actually out until 2018, and it's coming out in early access in early 2018. I got my hands on the combat demo, so what you're actually going to see is the combat of the game, the combat demo of the game. You are not going to actually see any exploration or any of the overworld elements of the game, but I should mention before we get into the combat that there is going to be a big exploration part of this game. Think of something like Sunless Sea, like I've said, FTL, where you're going, you know, all around these different places. You're going to port, you're going to hire a crew, you're going to be able to upgrade your ships, you're going to be able to buy things, you're going to be, you know, stumble upon quests, random encounters, that kind of thing. So bear that in mind when considering, you know, the overall view of this title. But let's get right into what I actually got to explore in the game, which is of course the combat itself. Now, what I love straight off the bat of Abandoned Ship is the FTL vibes it gives me when it comes to the combat. We're talking about combat that is basically running on a timer, right? So, you know, your cannons, once they're loaded, are going to fire at a specific cooldown time, very much similar to something like FTL's combat. And the way the combat works, it's all about managing your crew. So you're going to have crew that are going to have to manage the guns to make sure they're reloaded. You're going to have crew that can heal your other crew. You're going to have marines on deck in case you get boarded. You're also going to have to think about repairs, and, you know, should your ship take an enormous amount of damage, holes are going to start bursting in that ship and you're going to have to repair those holes. And if you've taken water on, you're going to have to get someone to pump the water off the ship. All those kind of things that you would come to expect from a naval experience, let alone something like in FTL style, then you're going to experience here. And I absolutely love that right off the bat, because it's a very satisfying style of combat, very strategic, very micromanage almost. You know, you've got to think about your range, what guns are going to be effective at certain ranges, what gun, you know, do you need to be at once, how are you going to prioritize any given scenario, because you're going to have situations where everything is a complete mess and everything's gone to crap, and, you know, you've got 3 holes in your ship, one's taken on water, you've got a fire at the back end, you've got an enemy encroaching on you for a ram. How are you going to prioritize? Are you going to prioritize the holes in the ship? Are you going to prioritize the fire? Are you going to prioritize, you know, preparing for the ram? You know, it's all about that kind of thing. And so if you don't enjoy that, then you're probably not going to enjoy this. But if you do enjoy games like Sunless Sea, like FTL, and you enjoy that kind of management style game in terms of the combat, then you're going to be right at home with Abandoned Ship, because even this early on in the game, you know, especially this is a demo of an early access product, it's looking absolutely top notch. And more importantly, it is, in terms of its feedback and its overall gameplay and how that experience, you know, goes from play to play to play, it's really fantastic. It's smooth, it transitions well. You know, you have this really nice option of pausing and then issuing orders, and then pausing and issuing orders. So if it ever gets unmanageable, you can always revert to a, you know, a pause style of gameplay, and that's just fantastic to give that option. I never really used it. I like to, you know, kind of go all in or crumble, and oftentimes I crumble, but it was fun nonetheless. So the combat itself, like I've said, it's fantastic. I really love a couple of elements in particular. I love the fact that, unlike something like FTL, which was very static almost, it felt, that this almost gives you a sense of a dynamic combat system, in the sense that it has a few little options here and there and a few little nice features that makes it feel not only a lot more fluid but a lot more realistic. realistic, right? So it's not just a static ship versus a static ship firing from range and seeing who wins. You also have to consider, you know, the ocean, what's going on in the environment. You know, the game puts and throws environmental hazards in, like storms that can shoot lightning bolts that are going to start a fire on your ship, or giant waves that if you don't prepare correctly, they can throw men overboard and you can lose a crewman. Then you also have to think about the distance that you are to the other ship, and you can go closer or further away depending on, you know, your navigation systems and if they are not destroyed yet. And there's just things like that, little elements that not only add a sense of realism and a sense of depth, but they really add to the tactical elements of the game. In terms of, you know, getting a good experience from a strategy style game, this really does add an extra layer to that. Something that I always felt things like FTL was severely missing in that regard. Now that said, I absolutely love the combat overall. However, there are a couple of issues. For example, I don't think the game gives you enough information to work with on a regular basis. Yes, the tutorial works very well in the combat demo itself. However, as you progress in the game, there's that many features. When you get in, you're kind of overloaded with information, right? So by your second fight, you've already forgot a lot of the nuanced things about the actual combat itself. So, for example, my navigation bar is full. I have a full meter, so I should be able to move the ship, and I wasn't able to move the ship. Now, I wasn't sure if that was a user error, or it was an interface error, or it was a bug, or there was an environmental reason why I couldn't move, and the game was giving me absolutely no information in that regard, which became quite frustrating. And that is something that I think the developers are going to have to look at and make sure that they really nail down those kind of, you know, just putting some helpful hints in there. So if I'm like spam clicking something and it isn't doing anything, maybe a little pop-up should say, oh, you can't use this right now because the wind is too high, or you're trapped by, you know, torpedoes, or, you know, whatever the reason I can't do the thing that I'm trying to do is. There should be an interface system and a feedback system that lets me know why I'm not doing that, so for the next time I know, don't spam click that for 5 minutes hoping that something's going to do something, because it won't. My second issue with the combat overall was the actual damage feedback, right? So I could certainly tell when I was in trouble because I had a load of holes on my deck. But the enemy ships can be quite far away, and it is very difficult to tell without looking at the health meter what their situation is right now. And that's kind of important because I don't want to be looking right at the top left of my screen, because I'm kind of busy concentrating on what my crew is doing and, you know, micromanaging them play to play. So I need to be looking down at the center to the bottom of my screen to understand what is going on my ship and how to, you know, actively counteract whatever disaster is befalling me this time. It would have been nice to have a little bit more feedback on how damaged the enemy is, right? So obviously on your own ship there's not that much. You get the holes, you repair the holes, there's no lasting damage. However, it would have been nice to have at least a system whereby I could, you know, physically see the damage on the other ship. Maybe, you know, there was giant holes in the side or something like that that let me know, oh hey, this ship is, you know, 2/3 way down on health. And it would have just been a nice little visual teaser to let me know what's going on without me having to look elsewhere while I'm trying to do 1,000,001 different things. Now, having said all that, I absolutely love Abandoned Ship. It has so much potential to be a real time eater. I think that I have absolutely fallen in love with certainly the art style. I think that is magnificent. That kind of, you know, oil/watercolor painting style that they have going on is absolutely wonderful. Love it to pieces, can't get enough of it. I absolutely love that combined with the kind of monsters that you're going to encounter, like the Kraken. It's just very Lovecraftian, and I absolutely love it to pieces. Also, really enjoyed the soundtrack of the game, what little I heard of it. That was very satisfying as well. A lot of the sound effects in the game were very good also. The bells, the cannon fire, that kind of thing. All very right where it needs to be in terms of having a realistic, audible experience. The gameplay, from what I gathered thus far in this very kind of vertical slice of a title, I'm very hopeful. if the exploration gameplay and the quest systems and all the decisions that you get to make in those quests and the main story and all that kind of thing is as good as what I've seen so far, then this could be certainly a breakout hit of the early year next year, and certainly one to keep your eye on. I really hope that this game kind of comes out in early access and then is kind of done very quickly. From what I can gather, it's very polished already. There's very little wrong with it. I think it's just a case of tweaking some features, making sure the bugs are up to thing, you know, making sure the balance is there, and then just going. Because I would hate for this to really lay in early access for too long, because it deserves a full release and it deserves all the praise it gets if it pulls it off correctly. So very hopeful for this one, certainly one to keep your eye on for the new year. I have been Cosmic, this has been Abandoned Ship. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, share the video, as always it helps the channel a lot, and as always I will see you next time.